Often when people talk about fights in anime, they usually limit it to things like best fights or the most badass fights. And honestly, I love lists like that. I could and have watched a ton of them. Badass anime fights fill me with this kind of tingling feeling, and although I find a lot of them memorable, the fights that really stay with me, that have me in a chokehold, that haunt me and have me doing the wildest, craziest things, like start a long-running anime, for example, are the heartbreaking fights. The ones that have me in tears or close to tears, the ones that are solidly about the characters and their emotions and their growth, those are the fights that I can never forget about. A couple of them have stayed with me for years, and I figured why not share those fights, do an analysis of them of some sort, and turn them into a possibly video series. Starting with the fight that got me into my first long-running anime, the fight between Sasori no Danna and Grandma Chiyo with Sakura. Each of these fight videos will start off with a brief recaps of the events that led to the fight, establish its stakes, introduce the character, then explore their relationship with each other. We'll look at the emotional beats, explore the fight itself and the emotional state of the characters during the fight, then look at the end or climax of the fight, what the resolution was, and exactly what changes with the character's stance, state, and sentiments after the fight, and how that impacts the story going forward. Before I start the analysis of the Sasori versus Sakura and Grandma Chiyo fight, I want to give a brief explanation as to why this is the fight that haunts me from Naruto. Let me start off by stating that Naruto has a ton of heartbreaking fights. The various times Naruto and Sasuke face off always get to me, especially their first major story-changing fight at the Valley of the End that marks the end of Naruto early years. Then there's Kakashi's fight with Obito and all that history, Sasuke's fight with Itachi at the former Uchiha stronghold. That touch to the forehead with the "sorry Sasuke, there won't be a next time" gets to me every single time. So I'm sure you're wondering why then did I decide to go with Sasori versus Sakura and Grandma Chiyo's fight instead. And honestly, it's for sentimental reasons. You see, the first time I ever watched an episode of Naruto was almost 16 years ago. I was at university visiting a friend of a friend, and he was catching up on the most recent Shippuden episodes. At that point, the anime was just rounding off the Sasori versus Sakura and Grandma Chiyo fight, so he started his binge watching from the start of the fight, and I joined him. Now, please note that at this point, I had no context of this fight or story whatsoever. I'd never watched or read any chapter of Naruto. I didn't know what this anime was about. But from the moment Team Guy and Kakashi rip off the 5-sealed barrier and Sakura punches through the rock that marked the entrance to the cave, I was hooked. We watched the entire fight and its aftermath for about 6 hours straight. And after we were done, I was bawling my eyes out. My face was a mess, and I was asking him what the title of the anime was and how I could watch the rest of it. That was when he explained that this was Naruto Shippuden. I had to start from Naruto early years and catch up on about 250 episodes in total, inclusive of the fight, of course. This conversation of how can I get access to the Naruto episodes was what led me to meeting my best friend then, who is still my best friend till date. And the rest is history. So yeah, the Sasori fight will always hold a special place in my heart. And I do freely admit that the circumstances within which I watched that arc and got into the rest of the story probably contributes a lot to my bias. But let's be honest, the fight has epic moments. I see the 10 puppets you used to capture a castle and I raise you the 100 puppets I used to conquer a nation scene would always be top tier awesome. The pain in Grandma Chiyo's words as she talks about the reanimation jutsu and why she worked so hard to develop it will never not make me cry like a baby. It is magnificent. If you're someone who's never watched Naruto, don't worry, the spoilers will be contained to events that happened between episodes 16 to 32 of Naruto Shippuden and chapters 262 to 281 of the Naruto manga. And like I said earlier, you can totally watch this video, and if you like what I'm talking about and want to check out Naruto, either the anime or the manga, then please go check it out. I'm still slightly miffed at the rushed ending, but it is an amazingly solid story. There is a reason why it is such a beloved and popular anime and manga. With that said and done, let's get on to the video proper, starting with the events that led to the fight. Prior to Sakura punching through the rock at the mouth of the cave that is the meeting place for the Akatsuki, a group of villains and antagonists who are hell-bent on bringing pain and destruction to the world so that, to paraphrase their leader, the world will stop fighting and the thought of experiencing that level of pain and destruction again would be a deterrent to their conflict-seeking ways. An utterly convoluted reason, I know. Pain, or Nagato, wasn't really up there and didn't really make sense, but you also understood where it was coming from. If you don't think I'm making sense with my conversations about his character motivations, then trust me, you need to watch Naruto for yourself to see that within the context of the story, it makes perfect sense. But back to what I was saying. Prior to the punch, Team 7, Team Guy, and Grandma Chiyo rushed to the destination in question to rescue Gaara, the 5th Kazekage of Sunagakure, who the Akatsuki had captured to extract the one-tailed beast that resides within him, so they could use this power to further their agenda. As you might have guessed, the stakes are pretty high at this point. Not only would extracting Shukaku, the one-tailed beast, lead to Akatsuki getting a dangerous weapon, but the extraction of a tailed beast from a Jinchuriki are human hosts of the tailed beast, so an extraction from the Jinchuriki will kill said Jinchuriki. So this makes this even more personal for Naruto, who is a Jinchuriki himself, who previously in Naruto early years had befriended Gaara and considered it highly unfair that not only do the Jinchurikis have to face being ostracized from their villages because of people's fear of the tailed beast living within them, but now they are also being targeted and killed because of this power that they never asked for or really wanted in the first place. The third stake lies with Grandma Chiyo, who knows that one of the Akatsuki members they are about to duke it out with is her grandson, who went rogue and who she hasn't seen in over 20 years. So yeah, personal problems galore make for very high stakes. But for us to be even more invested, we need to have a clear understanding of who these characters are before the fight, so we can see the clear changes they've undergone by the time we get to the end of the fight. For Grandma Chiyo, her brother describes her as someone who previously didn't really care for the future of the village. We also learn that she's the one who actually sealed Shukaku in Gaara on the orders of his father, that she's a medic ninja, and that she feels some responsibility for her grandson Sasori, who is a member of the group that masterminded the capture of Gaara, her village's Kazekage. And it is this relationship that is the focal point of this fight. Sure, there are 3 people present in the cave after Naruto and Kakashi chase after Deidara, but the fight is really between Grandma Chiyo, the woman who raised her orphaned grandson and taught him a puppeteering skill as a means to bond them both and offer him companions to help soothe the loss of his parents. The grandson, who took these skills that his grandmother taught him, built on it till he reached the puppeteer master level and became a product of a village that thrives on violence, so much so that he actually turns himself into a puppet to lose his human frailties and weaknesses and basically live forever, something that is important to keep track of, especially when we remember that his parents died in a clash with the ninjas of Konoha, particularly the White Fang, Atake Sakumo. And then there is Aruno Sakura, the student of Atake's progeny, who is also a medic ninja like Grandma Chiyo, a young girl who's learned early on that peace is fleeting and knows what it feels like to have someone you loved turn their back on your village and everything is stood for their own ideals and desires. And so moving into this fight, we have Grandma Chiyo, a woman who represents Suna's violent history, Sasori, a man-turned-living puppet who represents the byproduct of Suna's violent history come room to roost, Sakura, a ninja from Konoha, another village that shares a violent and tumultuous history with Suna since the first Shinobi War, the most recent of which occurred during the Chunin exams, and finally Gaara, whose body had been grabbed by Deidara to lure Naruto away and who represents the casualties of Suna's violent history and the heavy toll it has placed on his citizenry. And that is where we start off the fight between Sasori, Grandma Chiyo, and Sakura, with Grandma Chiyo explaining to Sakura one of the many ways that stand Sasori out from the rest of the pack with regards to his puppeteering skills. Unlike others who, when controlling their puppets, leave their actual bodies vulnerable to attacks from fighters who can sneak their way through their puppet's defenses, Sasori controls his puppet Iruko from within it, thus turning it into a puppet armor. Sakura, though, thanks to Grandma Chiyo's puppetry, is able to dodge all of Sasori's hidden weapons attack, which is extra needed since every single weapon he has is poisoned, and thanks to Tsunade's training, has the strength needed to punch through Iruko, the puppet armor, only to reveal the truth beneath it all. Sasori had transformed most of himself into a puppet who still retains the exact same features he had when he first left Suna 20 years ago. And Sasori is not done with the surprises just yet, as next he reveals a trump card he's been holding on to. The third Kazekage that has been missing for the last 10 years was actually captured, killed, and turned into a puppet by him. A puppet who is still able to use his Iron Sand technique, which he employs in his fight with Grandma Chiyo and Sakura, the latter of whom has started to adapt in their fight and was starting to read Sasori's moves, until one of the third Kazekage's moves causes multiple lacerations and poisons her. However, because Sakura had already developed an antidote and made 3 copies of it, one of which was given to Kankuro, who had been previously poisoned by Sasori when Gaara was kidnapped, she's able to heal herself during the fight, and using that moment of feigned weakness, destroys the puppet of the third Kazekage. Something that causes Sasori to fight even harder, countering all of Grandma Chiyo and Sakura's moves and even grazing Grandma Chiyo with his poison weapon. This fight continues until Grandma Chiyo has Sakura use a chakra sealing orb on him. However, Sasori is able to transfer his heart, the only part of him that is human, the source of his chakra, and definitely a metaphor for how ultimately at the core of him, Sasori cannot get rid of the human frailty that is his heart and the emotion he has tried so hard to hide. At the core, he is a young boy, mourning the loss of his parents and unable to receive that comfort from his only living relatives. So Sasori transfers his heart into another puppet before the orb traps him, and as he attempts to stab Grandma Chiyo, Sakura stands in front of the blade and is stabbed. When Sasori attempts to stab her a final time, Grandma Chiyo uses the very first puppet Sasori had ever created to stab him through the heart. A heartbreaking scene filled with symbolism because the puppets that killed Sasori were the puppets that had been made to represent his parents. Sasori ends his life killed and then held as he died by the representatives of his parents to symbolize that finally at the end of his life, he's surrounded and held by the people he had spent his entire life desperate to be held and loved by. As with quite a lot of fight scenes, Sasori, Grandma Chiyo, and Sakura's fight is half filled with actual fight and half filled with flashback scenes that reveal more of Grandma Chiyo and Sasori's past and helps us understand their emotions during the fight, which contributes to the heartbreak. From the flashback scene, we see that Sasori did have wonderful parents, but they were sent to fight in a war against Konoha where they died fighting Konoha's White Fang, and we see child Sasori slowly go from the excitement and anticipation of his parents returning home to the sadness and pain and loneliness when he realizes that they never would return, that he won't ever again experience what the little kids he can see around him have, their parents alive and well and being utterly loving to them. It is this loneliness that Grandma Chiyo can so clearly see that leads her to teach Sasori puppetry. We see a woman who is dealing with her loss and grief, trying to provide in the way she can for her grandson, whilst dealing with the guilt that by virtue of the position she holds and the choices she's made, she too had contributed to the tragedy that her family is at the moment experiencing. And it is this guilt that weighs heavy on her, that pushes her to try to atone. Firstly, by working to defeat her grandson, who based off of her reactions and words, we can assume she regrets letting loose onto the world. And secondly, by attempting the reanimation jutsu on both Sakura and Gaara, a significant event I will dive into shortly. Then there's Sasori, who starts off the fight bored out of his mind, wanting to get on with it so he could chase after Naruto before Deidara can steal him, and who realizes that the young girl and the old woman he hadn't been expecting much from had quite managed to surprise him in hanging on and forcing him to reveal all his cards and show off the full range of their abilities, whilst at the same time dealing with the faces of his childhood trauma, both in the case of Grandma Chiyo still being alive and fighting him, and the mom and dad puppets that he had created as a child to offer himself as much companionship and warmth as wooden puppets that break with a little lost concentration can, being used in turn to kill him. And although Sasori does act like he isn't affected at all, it has been quite the topic of debate in the fandom since we first read that arc. Because Grandma Chiyo admits that Sasori did have an opportunity to avoid being stabbed and didn't take it. Some have said he chose to die because he was tired of living. And I do see the merit in that statement, especially because there is this edge of exhaustion and ennui as he talks about how he can live forever as a puppet. And yet, although he tried as much as he could, a part of him still remained human. I think that human part was what led to him dying. For that brief moment, he saw the mom and dad puppets, flashed back to his childhood of wanting to be held forever by his parents, and by a stroke of fate, got his wish. He died being held in the arms of the puppets with his parents' faces that he had created to give himself comfort. But even though the fight ended, there were still some unresolved issues. Grandma Chiyo's been poisoned, and because she chose to give Sakura the antidote instead of using it for herself, she is dying. However, it turned out that because Sasori stabbed Sakura in a pretty vital point, she's going to die as well. What then follows is an event that helps bring the arc of Grandma Chiyo losing her son and his wife full circle. With Sakura on the verge of death, Grandma Chiyo reveals the reanimation jutsu that she had perfected with the hope that she would one day use it to give life to Sasori's puppet parents at the cost of her own life, just so her grandson can have that love and family that he desperately wants. But Sasori left sooner before she was able to carry that out, which is heartbreaking. She then uses the jutsu on Sakura to save her life, the irony of which can't be lost on anybody considering the fact that she used the reanimation jutsu that was created to bring back her child and his wife to instead save the life of the student of the son of the man who killed her child and his wife. And although employing the jutsu on Sakura didn't kill Grandma Chiyo because Sakura's injuries wasn't fatal after all, Grandma Chiyo did end up sacrificing her life force when she uses it to bring Gaara back from the dead. A final gift to the boy whose life she had contributed no small misery to. The guilt that she started the fight with. The knowledge that not only was her grandson responsible for the capture and death of Gaara, and the fact that she herself sealed a tailed beast in him whilst he was a baby to be used as Suna's weapon, even though she was aware of just how terribly treated the Jinchurikis are in the various villages they live in. The guilt of all she had been responsible for was eased by her sacrifice. It is why she's quite happy to tell Naruto that she's finally able to make things right, and that she hopes it really does change the mess of a world that her generation had created. The fight with Sasori was a conclusion of Sasori's arc and an escape of the hell that he was thrust in, built upon, and finally was granted an escape in death. It was a chance for Sakura to fully flex her muscles and power because yes, that was the first official fight we got of her in Shippuden. And it showed just how far her training with Tsunade had brought her. But it also revealed the path she could walk on, with the fellow medic Grandma Chiyo's mistakes being highlighted and her sacrifice being acknowledged. Finally, it was also a redemption for Grandma Chiyo, a chance for her to get closure and a sowing of a seed of hope into the future, a future vastly different from the past she helped create. That is the future we see at the end of Naruto, one that Grandma Chiyo would have been quite proud to have contributed to. As stated at the start of this video, I really did enjoy this fight. I love it. I come back to it often because it has so many layers and speaks to the brilliance of Masashi Kishimoto and the character study he brings to his story. I am still team Naruto didn't eat the ending I wanted, but when it was on a roll, by gods, Kishi could write. Tell me, which of the fights depicted in Naruto is your most heartbreaking and beloved one? Do drop it in the comments, and whilst you're at it, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, share it if you can. It helps grow my channel and brings other people to my content. If in addition to anime or manga being your thing, you also like movies and shows, I make videos on movies and shows and TV shows that drop every Wednesday at 5 p.m. EST. I am currently on a Bridgerton kick, so if that is your jam, my next video will be a Bridgerton video, which like I said drops on Wednesday at 5 p.m. EST. If however you want bookish themed content, those videos drop on Fridays at 5 p.m. EST, and my anime manga content drops on Mondays at 5 p.m. EST. So you get new videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5 p.m. EST on my channel. So if you like my content and what I have to say, do consider subscribing to support me. And speaking of support, a huge thank you to my patrons. You all support me to keep making content because YouTube can just be special like that. And without you all, I just can't see how I would keep going. So yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your support. And if you're watching this video and want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description bar. But only if you can afford it, of course. I know how hard and tight things are for all of us All of us collectively. But yeah, that is the end of this video. And until my next one, which drops on Wednesday, remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.